Well, I'm Jonathan Worsley, Chairman of the Bench, and I'm delighted to have the Chief Executive Officer of the King Abdullah Financial District, KAFD DMC, Gautam Sashittal, with us here this morning. Gautam, delighted to have you here.
Jonathan, equally delighted to meet you and to speak with you. Really going to have a great conversation, I hope.
I think so. I mean, I was at KAFD not so long ago, and it is quite the remarkable development that's going on there. And I know it's one of the largest mixed-use resorts or mixed-use districts in the world, as large as the City of London. But how are you progressing with your plans from FHS a year ago?
I think there's been a huge amount of progress over the last 1 year, and we've delivered pretty much all of the buildings that were under construction. And really our focus has shifted now over the last 1 year to getting tenants, to supporting tenants with their fit-outs. We've got at any point in time over 100 fit-outs happening, and that fit-out, it's office tenants, it's retail tenants, and there's F&B included over there, and there's general retail as well. All the amenities that office tenants and residents really need around them. You know, you talk about dry cleaners, you're talking about spas, gyms, and so on. Apart from, of course, a very, very large concentration of high-end F&B and also more affordable F&B as we go forward, where you have office tenants that need all kind of price points. So really our focus today is about filling those buildings, and a significant part of that as we speak right now is about fitting out our first three hotels, which the first of which, of course, we are hoping to be ready with by the end of this year. It is a Kimpton from the IHG group. And so we're very excited to actually add the hotels or the hospitality component to our asset mix.
Interesting. So what is the current accommodation? How many people are living in KAFD at the moment?
So at the moment, we have about almost 300 apartments that are furnished and are being let out or are occupied, shall we say. But in addition to that, almost another 700 are being designed and furnished. What we want to do is to create this sort of accommodation that kind of positions KAFD as a premium destination. And when we look at premium, we're not only looking at the city, we're looking region and globally. We're creating the sort of premium residences that people want. Now, we have a total stock at the moment of 984 apartments. As I said, a majority of them being fitted out, furnished, and so on at the moment. We'll have somewhere between 3,000 and 4,000 residents in the community when they're ready and leased out.
Right. Fantastic. It's interesting, isn't it, that your focus on hospitality, which I suspect has not been a focus of other developments when originally conceived, like Canary Wharf in London.
Indeed.
Why is hospitality for you so key?
So let's take a step back, actually, and let's look at what assets we have in KAFD today. We have 5 asset classes that are native to the district. Now, you don't find that in any other district anywhere in the world. And let me explain each of these. The office component is obviously, it's very obvious. We have residences. We mentioned the 984 residences in our current development. We have retail, fair amount of retail, and that retail is going to be split between F&B and general retail, and there's a huge amount of momentum in that asset category. We then have hospitality. Now, why do we need hospitality? If you're talking about 1 million square meters of office space and thereabouts, and you're talking about an international business ecosystem that sort of feeds on itself, you will have a lot of international travelers coming in and doing most of their meetings within KAFD. Now, having done their business in KAFD, where do you want them to live? You want them to live in KAFD. Hence why the hospitality component becomes extremely, extremely important for us, because you have a captive audience, basically. But there's the last asset class that I'm talking about, which we call broadly, very broadly, entertainment. But let me focus on a particular aspect of it, which is a MICE destination. So we have one of the largest conferencing centers in Riyadh. And what we're in the process of doing now in partnership with ASM is to convert a conference center into a MICE destination. So imagine that you'll have 150 to 200 days of events happening when it's fully kind of functional, shall we say. Now, again, hospitality becomes a very key enabling asset class for conferencing in MICE, not just for business visitors, but also for events, for conferences, and so on and so forth. Now, even today, KAFD runs a number of events, what we call KAFD Dialogues. We have an annual leadership summit. So we're doing a lot of these events already as we speak. And this is why hospitality becomes a very critical part of what we're doing. There's one.
And I think particularly with cities.
Jonathan, if I could just interrupt you, apologies for that. One more reason why hospitality is important. If you look at how tourism is growing in Saudi Arabia, over 100 million visitors last year who spent almost 100 billion Saudi riyals. Now, 40 million were tourists expected in Riyadh. KAFD has an obligation to create the number of hospitality keys to support this kind of influx of tourists. So really, it's not just about KAFD as a district, it's KAFD as within Riyadh and KAFD as being part of the kingdom's aspirations towards tourism.
Yeah. And I suppose with the challenges of commuting to your offices, to events as well, I suppose having everything within KAFD makes a great deal of sense. Tell us a little bit more about that journey and that experience within KAFD for visitors.
So if I have to put it in one sentence, our ambition is to make KAFD a 10-minute cognitive city. Now, what do I mean when I say that? Everything that you need within KAFD has to be between 10 minutes from where you live or where you work. Now, what we're doing, for example, is we are creating a network of almost 50 skywalks. They're all on the first floor of each tower and they connect the entire district. So you're creating a means of mobility that is 24/7, 7 days a week, and throughout the year. We have extremely hot weather during the summers, so this really creates one of the means of mobility within the district. We have a very large Zaha Hadid metro station within the community. Now, when that opens sometime this year, we would expect people to come straight from the airport into KAFD to do their business. And then that's where the hospitality component then becomes extremely important, because you don't want people to do their business within KAFD and then have to travel and create more congestion on the roads, going out and living in other hotels. So that is another part of what we do. Now, KAFD is one of the largest LEED Platinum, what is called Neighborhood Destination or Neighborhood District 2 Platinum certifications in the world, because we have sustainability at the core, an automated waste collection facility. We have grey water recycling within the district. We have a very large public realm, what we call the Wadi, where it's green as well, where you can actually walk throughout the year. The master plan's very cleverly designed. So all of this really means that we are a very sustainable district. Over 40 of our buildings are LEED Gold or LEED Silver. All of this kind of gives us very strong credentials towards sustainability, towards creating that 10-minute city. And part of that 10-minute city is really about more usage of the metro, use of the skywalks. We have shuttles, bus shuttles that we run throughout the district, getting people to commute from one place to another. And we'll have other modes of transport as well within the district to keep it completely and truly connected. Does that make sense?
No, it makes absolute sense. And it was a question I was going to ask you, actually, because our theme for FHS is invest in tomorrow, today, together. And I emphasize the together bit because, how do you see, you're all about collaboration. And how do you see that collaboration shaping the future of hospitality, particularly when it comes to sustainability and resilience?
Absolutely. I mean, let's look at what's happened to tourism post-COVID. It's actually ballooning. Now, the hospitality sector contributes about over 5% of the greenhouse emissions, and that was expected to go up by 130% by 2035. That's one part of it. The second part of it is, of course, you've got consumer preferences. Consumers really want sustainability. They want to even reduce the carbon footprint. They're expecting a lot from the hospitality sector. Now, this pull and push basically means that the hospitality sector needs to do a lot in order to be sustainable, because hospitality is not just about hotel keys. It's about transportation. It's about flights. It's about local transportation. It's about the way food waste is managed. It's about so many other things. So hospitality has a big role to play. And you mentioned earlier the Sustainable Hospitality Alliance, which has the ambition of reducing the carbon footprint by almost 66%, I think, by 2030, and roughly about 90% plus by 2035. That means that all of us have a role to play. And what plays to this advantage, I believe, Jonathan, is that the hospitality industry is concentrating. So if you look at all the brands now, the hotel brands, they're kind of owned by a few mother brands, if I can call it that. And that means that sustainability story can be spread very quickly across the hospitality industry. And KAFD will obviously play a part of it by virtue of being that sustainable city, by virtue of the grey water recycling. We do the waste management, the lowering the waste within the community, the 10-minute city, climate-controlled skywalks, etc., etc. All of this automatically contributes towards that ambition of the industry to reduce the carbon footprint.
And how are you evolving? Because this is all about innovation. It's about being a smart city. But how are you, as part of your DNA, how are you developing this innovation amongst your team, amongst your those that are tenants of yours as well?
So let's talk about what we're doing as KAFD as an organization, for example. We have a very well-developed sustainability strategy, which we're rolling out elements of. And obviously, we want to hold ourselves accountable. So we will become a part of the UN Global Compact because we really want to contribute to the UN SDGs. That's part of it. The other part of it, of course, is the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia has made certain commitments in Vision 2030 towards sustainability. And so KAFD, therefore, has a role to contribute towards that as well. So as an organization, we look at what we call sustainability by design. So we're not resting on our laurels. Today, we're saying we've got this sustainable platinum, gold, or silver credentials. How can we improve that? For example, we're doing things like water recycling, where we'll recycle groundwater to actually pump it back and use it for irrigation and so on, maybe supply a surplus to the city if we can. We're looking at all of these initiatives. We're looking at waste collection at source, separation, collection, recycling at source. We signed an agreement with the largest recycling facility in Saudi Arabia. It's called SIRC. And not only are we looking at waste separation and preventing more waste going to landfill, but our eventual ambition is to create that circular economy by actually buying material that is made out of the waste that we give to them. Another example is that we are trialing a Sumitomo epoxy, which will be coated on the roofs of buildings and in the public realm. The whole purpose is to reduce the heat index because this is reflective. As we get very hot during the summers, so we're able to reduce the heat index. But what that also does is it increases the life of assets, and it also reduces the amount of energy that you use within the district. We have 2 district cooling plants, 100 refrigerated tons, makes it the most efficient way of cooling our district. So there's lots of these things that we're doing that will actually support the ambitions of the kingdom and, of course, of the hospitality industry.
Yeah, it's fascinating what you're doing, and no doubt you're showcasing that to the world as well in terms of what you're doing, because you're able to do this as a new build as well and look at the latest innovations, etc. And so congratulations on that. I just want to touch on the guest experience. So if I'm coming to stay at KAFD, how are you differentiating yourself within that whole hospitality landscape? You talked about making it easy access for everybody, but if I'm coming in as a leisure, I'm coming in on a leisure pass into KAFD, what's going to excite me about going to KAFD?
So first of all, we are using technology, enormous amounts of technology, a smart city. For example, wayfinding is one of these. So if you come in as a visitor, in a few months from now, you should be able to know, you will know every destination where you might want to go to. If you want to go to a restaurant, if you want to go to a retail store, if you want to go to a building, an office, you will have wayfinding, physical and electronic, if I could say that. We're not looking only at horizontal mapping, we're looking at vertical mapping as well. So if there's something on the second floor of a tower, you should be able to find that seamlessly. That's one example of how we're making all parts of our district accessible to visitors and tenants and residents alike. But that smart technology is what we're using as kind of native to everything that we do. The KAFD app, linking our retailers into that KAFD app, having promotions, having sort of loyalty programs for anyone who comes into the district, for example. Now, as a visitor, let's say if you come and live in one of our hotels, what we want to create is that ultimate experience for you. So you've got dining options way beyond what you would get in a hospitality, in a hotel anywhere, without actually getting into a taxi or a car and doing a half-an-hour journey. You should be able to walk and get the options. I'll give you some of these options that exist today. For example, Il Barretto, probably the best Italian restaurant in Riyadh. El Camino, Mexican. We've got Monopoly, which is another Italian restaurant. We've got Black Tap, the burger place. Different price points. Joe the Juice. We have Joe's the Grocer. And there are lots of other Mr. Chow, Chinese. And we've got lots of other restaurant brands that are currently under fit out. All of this will create a very unique experience for any visitor that comes into KAFD.
That's great. And ultimately, it's about data, isn't it? Knowing about your clients, knowing what their likes and dislikes are, and being able to create these personalized programs for them as well and communicate with them.
Absolutely. Data is, of course,
now,
the most important asset. And part of what we create these smart technologies is to really understand our customers' preferences and then think about how we can better that constantly.
Yeah, really interesting. And that helps, of course, with the revenue management and everything else. One last question, because I know you're busy, Gautam, but tell us about some of these hospitality projects. You've mentioned the first one's going to open later this year, and you've got 2 more on the lines. Is that something that you're announcing at FHS, or tell us of any exciting projects you've got?
Don't believe we're announcing anything, Jonathan. Now, the first project will not be open this year, but it'll be completed this year. Which is, as you know, at hotels, you need to have your soft opening and be ready really to receive your customers. So we're hoping that by the middle of next year, we'll have all three of these projects completed, and opening very shortly thereafter. We're not making any new announcements because I believe we made some of these announcements previously. This is just the fruition of those projects, really. But there will be a lot more projects in the future because we have an obligation not just to the visitors to KAFD, but as I said previously, to the visitors that are coming to Riyadh. We need to contribute towards the hotel keys that the city needs in order to satisfy its demand for tourists as well as business travel.
So how many keys are you looking for in KAFD?
Rather than say how many we're looking at in the future, I'll talk about how many we're sort of delivering the first phase of it, which is about 600 keys.
Right. Okay. And you've got a large stand at FHS in a week's time. Who is it you're looking to meet, and how can we try to assist with our clients coming to visit your stand?
Yeah, I think for us, it's about not just about the hospitality piece, but we want our visitors to understand KAFD as an ecosystem. And anyone that we can meet that understands KAFD as this prime destination for business, lifestyle, and customer experience, not just locally, but regionally and globally, these are people that we would like to meet. And anything that we can do to enhance our sustainability credentials, these are the conversations that we want to have. You mentioned earlier the sustainability, the Sustainable Hospitality Alliance. We would definitely like to meet them as well.
Gautam, well, listen, thank you so much for this podcast. So interesting what you're doing, and very much look forward to seeing you in a week's time at FHS. Thank you again.
Look forward to that, Jonathan. Lovely talking with you. Thank you.